Welcome once again to Help, I'm a Parent, Christian Parenting in the Real World. We're so happy that you have invited us to enter into your home, your church, or wherever you may be gathered today. Perhaps you're viewing this alone or as a couple, with a small group of friends, or maybe with a large church group. Or maybe you're even watching this online, but wherever you are, we're delighted that you have joined us for this program.
We're your hosts, Drs. Claudio and Pamela Consuegra. Together we serve as the Directors of Family Ministries for the North American Division of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We believe that the most important role you will ever play is being a parent to your child. God has entrusted you with a treasure more precious than anything you could ever own. Whether you're a single parent, a foster parent, a married couple, or a grandparent raising a grandchild, this segment will focus on the importance of building a firm foundation for parenting a child.
The foundation is the structure which supports the rest of the building. If the building is to be useful, sturdy, and permanent, it must be built on a solid base, a firm foundation. Every other part of the building will depend on the foundation for support. It may seem like a simple part of the overall construction process, but getting that foundation right is incredibly important. Any mistakes you make in the foundation will only get worse as that structure goes up. Without a firm foundation, the whole building stands at risk of crumbling down.
Building a positive family life works much the same way. As parents, you are building a foundation upon which your child's life will sit. Learning about all that goes on in the construction process in advance will help you assure that your family has a foundation that will carry them throughout eternity. The National Council on Family Relations recently released a startling statistic. 1/3 of all births in the United States are considered unintended. In other words, 1/3 of all the children born are not planned. The study goes on to say, many parents may not fully be ready for the sacrifices, the demands, and investments that children require.
You know, some couples have prepared for their marriage, but very few people have prepared properly to be parents. In today's session, we're going to talk about the preparation we need to be the most effective parents for our children. We want to thank you for joining with us today, and stay with us as we discuss how to build a firm foundation for parenting. Today we're going to talk about ways to make sure that your homes are built on a strong foundation. The rains may come and the winds may blow, but homes that are built on strong foundations will stand up to the trial that life may bring you. To help us explore this topic, we have invited two very dear friends to join us today.
Our special guests today are Mike and Gail Tucker. Mike is the Speaker Director for Faith for Today Television Ministries and serves as the host of the award-winning show Lifestyle Magazine. Mike has devoted his life to ministry and has a career marked by service to God and his community. He served for 17 years as senior pastor of the more than 2,000-member church in Arlington, Texas. He served as a counselor, a Christian high school Bible teacher, a youth pastor, and a senior chaplain for medical and psychiatric facilities. Mike holds a master's degree in counseling and has authored numerous books.
Gail is the Associate Speaker for Faith for Today Television. She's the co-host of their flagship program, Lifestyle Magazine, and other Faith for Today productions. She has a background in elementary education and has made family relationships an emphasis in her ministry. Gail and Mike are currently focusing on their newest television and seminar project, Mad About Marriage. Mike and Gail live near their 2 adult daughters and their son-in-law in Texas, and they have 2 grandchildren.
Mike, Gail, we are delighted to have you with us today. It's
Thank
a
you.
pleasure. You guys are friends of ours,
Yes.
but you also carry a lot of expertise in your ministry.
Well, thank you. It's a joy to be here. Thanks
It
for
is.
having us.
We've been
today.
looking forward to it.
You know, before we begin our conversation today, we want to take the peek inside the home of the Lubis family as they share with us their struggles about how to prepare for parenting because both of their children were unplanned. So let's take a look and visit with them.
Considering that we've been married for 4 years and most of it has been without children, now that we have these 2 boys, how do we make time for ourselves? How do we build a firm foundation?
I happen to work 9 to 5 shifts, and I'm just so far blessed to have an understanding wife who's been taking care of the little ones, especially in this newborn. I know you've been awake pretty much every night, every 2 hours, 3 hours you have to feed him. So the questions that I personally had before we had our babies, or the first one was, are we ready? Will we be able to survive? I knew all along it was going to change our lives upside down, but how ready were we was the main question.
So in my mind, I keep thinking, how do I deal with this feeling of guilt that I have when I do have time to go and pamper myself, if I want to go shopping and I'm leaving the kids behind? I feel guilty that my husband has to take care of both of them, or someone else has to take care of them when it should be me, when I should be there enjoying every moment, knowing that they're not going to be this age for much longer.
So one of the concerns that I guess I had, I still have, I guess, up to now, is about intimacy. I guess especially coming from a guy, I think it is still important for us to have our moments together, intimacy, physical attachment, whatever you want to call it.
So with the first one, we learned to adapt, but now with our second one, with 2 kids around and me having to feed him all the time, how do we find intimate time to be with each other?
Those are some of the real challenges of our young parents today.
They are. As I watched that, there are several things that stood out to me. First of all, how do we know if we're ready? I don't know that anyone's ever really been ready for parenting. Have
right.
they? I mean, truthfully.
That's right.
Yes.
Who's ever really been? And then the guilt. Parenting is the most guilt-producing activity I've ever engaged in my entire life. I've always felt that I was inadequate as a parent. No matter how much you do, you feel like it's never enough, and I'm just sure, when I was raising our daughters, we were doing that together, I was sure that I was doing something that was warping them entirely, Is this wrong?
Maybe they think the same way.
Are they going to be in therapy for the rest of their lives? What am I doing?
I think there's always that question, because the more you read and the more you hear, there's always one thing you're not doing or something that you are doing that shouldn't be. And it worries people.
And Mike brought up a very good point, because in this particular family, the pregnancy was not planned. But even if it is planned,
Yes.
are we really ready and prepared for what we're about to face?
It's a shock, because no matter how much you're looking forward to it, if you have planned it, still it changes your life dramatically, just like they indicated. And when you get the second one, that is, it turns your world upside down.
You think you already know most everything,
You
and
think.
then you have to start all over again.
That's right. You think, oh, well, we've got this down. We know how to haul them in the car. We've got the whole thing planned. But when the second one comes, you think, really? Why did we do this? But what I found in talking even to our own daughter with her second child and our son-in-law, they said, that they had that feeling right at first. Oh my goodness, why did we do this again? But that passes very quickly, and pretty soon you feel like, wow, now we're a more complete family for having the second child.
And what about those then who haven't had children yet? Is that a scary thought to say to them, what you think you're going to have is nothing like what it is? How do you prepare parents for parenthood?
It is a scary thought, and I think that's having a little fear is not a bad thing. Because truthfully, it is a little bit frightening. However, others have done this before you. You're not the first one to have a kid. You can survive this. In fact, no one can really tell you what this is going to be like until you experience it.
Yes.
You've raised children, we've raised children. I cannot adequately prepare anyone totally for what they're going to experience when they go through this. You're going to have to experience it firsthand. Now, there's some good counsel out there, some good advice. Learn what works for you and take that and move ahead. But, don't be so intimidated by this that you're afraid to parent, because what I see today is a lot of people they're afraid to be the parent. They really are. Those fears that I had that I was messing up my children, it paralyzes people so that they're afraid to do anything, afraid to set any boundaries, afraid to make any rules, afraid to administer discipline, because they're afraid that somehow they're going to warp their child.
So the preparation you talk about is like what, reading books, going to school, or what preparation are we talking about here?
Well, I think reading books is never a bad thing to do, although be careful what you read, because,
That's
we had
right.
generations read Dr. Spock, and then later he said, wow, did I mess that up? So, but there's some good standards out there that I think, and so I recommend Christian books because they're based on the Bible and they're going to give you a good foundation for doing this.
So it's spirituality, what we're talking about is that firm foundation.
It really is.
Okay.
It really is. I think that there's a lot of research that demonstrates that too, that couples, where spirituality is important to both mom and dad, everyone in the family has a higher level of satisfaction with the family and with their life as well.
Yes.
Those spiritual principles need to, in fact, that's the first thing you should do. When you know you're going to have a kid, is get on your knees.
So
and start
break that
praying.
down for us, Mike. When you said those spiritual principles, or the home should be built on a spiritual foundation, and I like what you just said, even as soon as you find out you're going to have children.
Right.
Describe that a little bit. What does that foundation look like?
To me, that always starts with the gospel. It is my recognition of my need. I'm not good enough to save myself. I need Jesus Christ in my life. I need a Savior. And when you recognize that, you turn over that life to Him. You receive the gift that He gives you, and then you place your life in His hands, and you ask Him to be the Lord of your life. You direct me today, Lord.
Experiencing Christ yourself first.
Exactly. When you experience Christ, it makes the difference, doesn't it?
And when you do that, He's promised that He will implant His Spirit within you. And then because of that, the things of relationship, the things of family relationship will grow in your life.
And really,
love,
that
joy,
principle,
peace, patience.
Gail, applies whether you're married, whether you're single, whether you're
Absolutely.
grandparenting.
Yeah.
That principle of having a personal relationship with Jesus Christ.
Absolutely. And then I think the next thing then is to be intentional about your parenting and be aware in your parenting. Being intentional, I think, says we want to have a plan for what we're going to do. If you're going to, we're talking about foundations today. If you're going to build a building, you're going to have a plan.
That's
And you're
right.
going to say, what is it that we're building? Are we building a little outhouse garage here or something? Or are we building a huge tall building? So we ask, what are we building when we have a child? Well, we want to build an individual who is independent, who is caring for other people, who loves God and loves other people. We want to build a person of integrity. We want to build a person who's
So basically
responsible.
you look at the values that you want to instill in your child so that they will grow up with those values.
When they are grown, what do we want them to look like?
Right.
Right. And then, all right, if this is what we want to produce, then what are the building blocks that it's going to take?
In
to
other
do
words,
that?
I almost, as a parent, I need to focus on the target.
Yes.
What is the target? And then what is it going to take for me to get there?
Yeah. If you don't have that end in mind at the beginning, then you're going to be confused about where you're going.
That's right.
You won't know. If you don't have a goal, then how do you set the rudder? How do you set the sail? You're just going to wander back and forth according to every wind that blows and any new fad that comes along. But if you know what it is you want to produce, if you want to produce a man or a woman who's after God's own heart, then there has to be a plan. You have to focus on that and have the plan to get from point A to point B.
It's not an accident.
Right.
No, it's not.
That's
It's not a
right.
coincidence. It has to have some plan behind it. And I think about our parents, though, our grandparents. What kind of foundation did they have? How was it different than, say, parents today who are trying to build their home in a firm foundation?
And I think that one of the things that happens today is we're bombarded by so many messages that there's a lot of confusion as to what this means. In one sense, our grandparents had it easier because they had a couple of examples. They saw it done someplace else. They had a small community of faith. And that they had a lot of advice from godly people who said, this is what I did with my kid.
So they had the example of other people as well.
And now we've got every expert in the world who's got a different opinion.
Yes.
Throwing it all at us. And it's overwhelming, I think.
Yes. Today is good to eat this. Tomorrow is not good to
That's
eat
right.
that. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Yeah. What about single parents? How do they build a strong foundation when they don't have that support system, at least from a spouse?
Yeah, I think it's important to seek that support system. It's important to educate yourself as much as you can before this child is born. And in order to do that, you know, call on parents, grandparents, or friends that you know. And continuing throughout that child's life, you need to call on other people for help. You know, even though we were married and we had each other to depend on, one of the things that we found extremely important for us is that at certain stages in our children's lives, there were other people who seemed to have a real effect on them, a real influence.
We prayed for that to happen, too.
We did, because
people that you look up to.
that's right. And if you're a single parent, I think that's even more important. If you're a single mom, you need to find godly men who can be an influence in your child's life. You know, maybe you have, there's an
like
uncle
a male
or
figure.
Yes, maybe there's an uncle, a grandparent, someone that you,
of the church, a deacon.
someone that you trust. You know, a married couple where that father will kind of take your children in too, you know, and help you parent.
And the same thing with women who can serve as that female figure.
Absolutely. If a father is raising children on his own, there's certain things that a man can teach a girl and certain things he cannot. He needs a woman's influence, and vice versa. Certain things that a woman can teach a young man, and certain things she cannot. One of the things a woman cannot teach a man is what it means to be a man.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or even give him that assurance, yes, you have arrived, you are a man.
Right.
That only comes from another man.
Right.
And so finding those men who can be active in your child's life is going to be key. So if you are parenting this child alone, don't be alone.
That's right.
Seek help from your church, from parenting groups. Find a small group. Get involved. Get extended family involved with this, friends, so that you have other influences that will help you out. Now, the couple also talked about intimacy. That's where these other influences help too.
And maybe we can talk about that after the break.
We'll do that.
This is a good time to do so. Thank you. You can probably already tell that we will not be able to cover every area, every concern, or every question you may have with just one parenting resource. Parenting will continue to produce new challenges and questions every day. As our children grow and change, so do the parenting challenges.
Our goal is to continue this conversation with up-to-date resources and parenting tools. We will do this online via our website. There, you will find out about any updates to these materials. And in addition, you will receive downloadable resources on a regular basis. It's our desire that this resource will assist you in your God-given role as a parent, using principles that are firmly grounded in the Word of God. So now let's go back to our conversation with our guests on today's program as we continue on the journey of exploring our God-given role of parenting.
Well, Mike and Gail, thank you so much for being with us. And right before the break, I had to interrupt you, but that was a great question that you posed. When you have a child, how do you maintain intimacy as husband and wife?
First of all, you have to plan it. You know, spontaneity may not be your best friend at this moment, because spontaneity is going to involve having to take care of these kids, or one child. It doesn't matter. You know, you've got to plan this, and maybe there are times when you can plan for someone else to be with the children, when you can find those times together. Other things are, as the children get older, they start to sleep more through the night. Putting them on a schedule and getting them to bed earlier than you go to bed is a smart thing to do.
But you need to take care of this baby, the diaper change, the feeding and all that. I feel so guilty as a parent spending time with my spouse when I should be spending time with the child.
You know, I think putting away that guilt is an important thing, because really what you're doing for the child by spending time together and strengthening your marriage is giving them the best home they can have.
There you go.
You are actually benefiting the child. Children feel the most secure when they know that their parents are together, that their marriage is strong, that it's going to last. And so by making sure that that marriage does last, you are blessing your child. So you can put away the guilt. I mean, obviously you don't want to spend all your time together and ignore the child, but that's not what we're talking about.
Right.
So put away the guilt and realize that healthy time together is actually a healthy thing for your child.
The essential needs have to be met.
Yeah, of
Absolutely.
course.
But then you have
Yeah.
to make sure that the child can also be by him or herself and then spend time with your spouse.
And
Absolutely.
there's going to be less one-on-one time for you and your spouse during those first few months, you know, and maybe the first year or two. It's going to be less, but you can still have it, and it can still be intentional. And you know, I think you make every moment special when you do get that little moment together. Just, you know, make sure that you take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Even if you
Turn
don't
the
have
TV off, you know, focus on each other.
Right.
Really
Right.
make that the key so that you spend time together. And if you're a single parent, again, lose the guilt because you have to nurture yourself. If you are completely drained of emotion and of strength and of health and of spirituality, what do you have to give to this child? Your child is better served when you are a healthier person.
Absolutely.
But let's break that down a little bit, Mike, because I'm a single parent and maybe I don't have that support system that we talked about. And yet I know, as we have said, that a healthy self is part of building that firm foundation for parenting. So what are some practical ways that I can take care of myself and not neglect my child?
I think you look for places to plug in where you can have a community. Maybe you don't just automatically have that. Maybe you don't have family living in the area that can help you. But you're intentional about this as well. So you plug into a church, or you look for you know, a mom's group or something like that.
Single
A single parents group, something of that nature.
You look for community. And there are places to find it if you just look for it. You know,
So it may be a
churches-
little bit more difficult, but you have to make that effort
That's right.
because that's what benefits you.
Because it's going to bless you
Yeah.
in the long run, and it's going to help your child
And
too.
we have to once again let go of that guilt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when I go out the door and hand my baby to a
Somebody
caregiver,
else, yeah.
I'm going to have to realize that in so doing, that those moments away are going to make me a much better parent
They
when I
benefit
return.
your child.
Even years ago, when I was a baby, my mom talked about, she had 4 children that were all under the age of 5. She talked about her pediatrician giving her some advice, and he said, be sure that you are away from the children at least a short time every day. He said, even if it's just 10 minutes to go to down to the corner store and get something. You need that and they need that, and he says you'll all like each other better when you come back together again.
That is so
Good
true.
advice.
and
Good
you know,
advice.
that was true back then, it's still true now.
Sure.
The other thing that I've encouraged couples and singles to do is to find other people with children about your children's age and volunteer to babysit. Let me keep your kids Tuesday night, you keep mine Wednesday. You know, trade off. That way you're not out any money, you know, and you can give yourself some free time to go take care of yourself, go shopping, just take a walk. And, you know, another part of that, though, is just getting some simple exercise. Taking care of your health, eating right and getting exercise is going to make give you a better outlook on life.
Have more energy to spend time
More
with
energy.
them as well. Sure.
And sometimes you can do that with the child. You know, they got great strollers now. You put kids in, they're made for jogging or walking or whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
You know, and so take that opportunity and go. Take care of yourself and don't, you know, guilt is an interesting thing. It can paralyze you or it can produce change in your life.
Right.
And so it can be a positive thing as well. But true guilt comes when you have violated some precept of Scripture or you've injured another person. Most anything else is false guilt, and we need to reject
That's
it.
true. You know, by the way, in the introduction, we told our audience that you have 2 grandchildren.
2 grandchildren.
So that's
yes.
a little different dynamic altogether because now you have another generation. So how do you, as grandparents, become involved in the life of that child without making the parents feel like you are intruding?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that we have done with ours is just to make sure that we let them be the parents, and we kind of take the back seat and take the enjoyment. And if our children bring the grandchildren over for us to watch them for a while, we ask all the questions. All right, what do you want? How do you want them fed? What's their schedule? What do you want? And we don't assume or make our children feel that we know better.
That you're parenting
Because
their kids when they're still the parents.
That's right. They are the ones in charge, and I'm going to step back and say, all right, you know, when do you want them to eat? What do you want us to do? What do you want us not to do? And we try to honor their plan for raising their children. And we've been really, you know, blessed to step back and watch them because they have done it with a plan, almost more so than we did.
Yeah,
I
think so.
And
They're very good at what they're doing.
Well, that shows that you respect them as parents. They're not your little kids anymore.
That's
They're
right.
grown
These
ups.
are adults.
I don't give any parenting advice that's not asked for, you know, because I believe that they have that right, and I need to respect that right for them to.
And I'm glad to
raise
hear
their
that because I
children.
thought grandparenting was all about spoiling the grandchildren and then sending them home.
Now, we didn't say we didn't spoil
Yeah,
them.
we do spoil anything that they don't tell us not to do that we think the kids would enjoy. I sneak in there. I want you to know that.
Take advantage to do that. Absolutely.
So is that not to-do list growing as they bring their
It
children?
grows as I violate things. That's true. All right, that's off the list. But you know, the grandchildren also learn pretty quickly that the grandparents are a lot of fun, and it's a
Yes.
break from mom and dad. But it's also kind of a break for the kids too,
sure.
because this is a place to kind of kick up your heels within limits, you know, and have fun. And our 2-year-old granddaughter came over this summer. We live in a condo with a pool right out our back door, you know, that's maintained by the HOA. And she walked in the house and she said, "Papa, I want to talk about swimming."
Wow.
So guess what we did that day? We went swimming.
That's right.
You know.
Not
Hint,
talk about
hint.
it. Let's go ahead.
Yeah, let's just do it.
It's a wonderful thing.
But you know, Mike, that's a wonderful example because by doing that, you are also fortifying that child's foundation, which is what we're talking about.
Exactly.
You know, by having involved grandparents, but yet not overbearing grandparents,
Right.
you are firming up that foundation for that child too.
And I like what you said again, to respect the parents as they parent their own children.
That's
Yes.
right.
Hey, thank you so much for spending the time with us. And thank you for your joining us as we explored some of the challenges of parenting today. We invite you to visit our parenting website, helpimaparent.org. There you will find many additional resources and materials.
And when you feel like screaming out, "Help, I'm a parent," just claim God's promise. "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Regardless of the challenges of parenting, God is really with you. You're not alone. Reach out and claim that promise and take His hand and journey together in parenting.
Join us next time on Help, I'm a Parent, Christian Parenting in the Real World, when we will talk about how to help your child have a forever friendship with Jesus Christ. Until then, we invite you as a parent to cling to your Heavenly Father.